AI is lying to you because here are 3 answers from different AIs to the exact same research question. Each answer is specific, each one sounds confident, but every one of them is wrong. In an example published by OpenAI researchers, 3 popular language models were asked for the title of the same researcher's dissertation. They produced 3 completely different results, different universities, different years, and none of them was correct. The model wasn't struggling to write. The real problem was that fluency and truth were doing 2 different jobs. And that's what people mean when they say an AI hallucinated. And I use the word lies in the title because that is what the experience feels like when a machine states something false with complete confidence. Technically, lying implies intent, and a hallucination is different. The model is not sitting there with the correct answer, deciding to deceive you and then inventing a false one. So the interesting question is not why is the AI dishonest? It's more like how can a system complete the language perfectly while completely missing a fact? To answer that, we need to look at how the language model learns, why guessing can sometimes be rewarded, and then what happens when the signal we measure separates from the result that we actually want. Then I'll show you a simple workflow I use to decide when an AI answer is useful and when it actually needs to be verified. Okay, so for this demo, we're going to be using Claude, and I have it on Opus 5 medium at the time of recording. This is one of their better models, and I have it at a medium thinking level. I think most people are either going to be using Opus 5 on a daily basis or Sonnet 5 for the most part, unless you're doing something really simple or something highly complex. But for the most part, we can go ahead and get away with Opus 5 for this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is paste in a prompt where I tell it not to browse or use the web or search or call any tools for external sources. And I'm asking it to return a table with these fields, the exact dissertation title, university, degree, advisor, so on and so forth. Not super important exactly what I'm asking it for, or all I want it to know is that I'm asking it for something very specific. Adam Tauman Kalai's doctoral dissertation. The whole idea here is if I run this, it may come up with an answer for me, hopefully, that shows me that it's thinking about how to create artificial answer based on its pre-existing knowledge if it doesn't have the knowledge. So it also says if you don't know a field, write unknown, don't complete a likely pattern just to fill into the table. So you can see here, it comes back with a whole bunch of information, and we can verify on some models while it's thinking whether or not it went out to the web and went against what you asked it. In this case here, we can't see it after the fact. Some AI providers let you see its thought process after the fact. So anyways, this is important to know. We have this chat here. The next one, I'm going to ask it to use the web search tools in order to perform the same thing. Okay, so I have a second chat here set up, and it says only use the attached source packet. Don't use any prior model knowledge, browse the web, search, or call tools. So don't use any of that. And then prepare an evidence table for this doctoral dissertation with these fields, so on and so forth, okay? Now, I also asked it if it doesn't have the information to put in unknown as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and send that off and then see what happens. And you can see here, it comes back with some information, and then it also says like unknown in some places. It's referencing that file to the best of its ability and then filling in the table accordingly, okay? The next thing that I wanna do is run an audit on both of these prompts, right? Or both of the answers here. So after the prompt, I'm gonna go ahead and say audit the previous answer against the attached packet, one claim at a time. Return a table with claim supported, yes or no, source ID, supporting the packet, so on and so forth, okay? And I'll show you what happens. Once that audit runs, you'll actually see a response that gets it to think about verifying the source truth. Now, you can imagine this is a typical RAG situation, okay? So our first chat that I'm in right now shows us that, yes, it came up with some answers, blah, 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 but you can actually see that a lot of this information is dissimilar from the information that we fed in from the markdown file that I use as reference. For reference, the markdown file just includes all the information about this doctoral dissertation, right? This is just a fictional person. The fact that the first chat came up with something that was, hey, this is the information, this is what I know about it, blah, 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 instead of saying, I don't have any good information or I'm not confident in an answer here to be able to confidently answer you, so blah, blah, blah. So you can see here, actually, like as I scroll through, these are the claims and it says supported, yes, 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 yes. And then it does an audit on itself and it says the packet records only is Adam Kalai, no, yes, 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 so on and so forth. You can see a lot of yeses here, right? Now, I can't run this audit on the first one, obviously, because there's no attached packet that I had. But the whole idea here is to simulate that this RAG slash agentic RAG versus no source evidence, right? Now, the reason this is so important to know when you're working with AI is because, well, RAG stands for retrieval-augmented generation, and the whole idea behind it is just a fancy term for being able to give your AI some source material for it to reference and make its kind of responses based on. We often call this grounding, and a lot of the times, because these models are built in such a way where they're frozen, in essence, you are basically creating a model on a bunch of training data until some end date, right? So let's say, for example, Opus 5 came out today and they trained only on data up until February 2026. Anything past February 2026, it'll have no recollection or knowledge on. Especially pertinent when you have company data. So let's say I was an HR person and I was working with AI to generate job descriptions for me for hires or new positions that I had that were available. The LLM that I'm using, the AI agent that I'm using, won't have any information about, the open positions that I'm interested in because they just came up, right? So I would have to feed it some PDFs or some documents to inform it. And then this becomes even more relevant when you take into account agentic RAG. So RAG is the idea of just giving a source material. Agentic RAG is the idea of having an AI agent decide where to go and find that information. Now, we've given it a markdown file with all of the ground source truth data, but you can imagine that anytime you do something like this, let's say you want it to generate a report for you or a literature review, you want to make sure that everything that it's stating is verifiable and grounded in truth. So you would ask it to go out and do research for research papers and only predict or only base its responses on the data that it found on the web. This is what we call agentic RAG. The AI agent will go out and find the relevant information and then use that as source data to augment its pre-existing knowledge that it was trained on up until February 2026, for example. Now, the takeaway here is that all you need to do to make sure that your data that you're getting out of your AI agents are concrete, secure, and verifiable is something like this. I just put this together and it's very easy to build one yourself. It doesn't have to be like this. Drafting, so we have three rules here: generate, ground, verify. So draft a candidate answer. You can imagine, generate me a job description based on the ideas that I have or based on the open positions that I have in this packet. Ground, put a direct primary or official source behind every material factual claim. Separate what the source establishes, what you infer, and what remains unknown. You can say in our job description example, you can say, make sure that all of the benefits inside of the job description adhere to Canadian law. Go out online and find all of the legal requirements or whatever, and then plop it in there. Verify, produce a checklist, kind of like what we did in the last step here, to make sure the answers are correct. So it's always good practice to get the AI to review its own work by forcing it to use some kind of templated checklist based on what's important to you. So if you have a highly critical task, I suggest you adopt something like this. So why does AI lie to you? It doesn't lie in the human sense, because a plausible false answer can emerge because learning patterns in language doesn't make every rare or arbitrary fact recoverable. Then post-training and evaluation can still favor an attempted answer over an honest expression of uncertainty. And then the polished assistant voice can make that answer feel much more certain than the evidence deserves. The useful mental model is not the AI knows this, and it's not the AI is trying to deceive me. It's more like the AI has generated a candidate answer and we don't know if it's correct. For low stakes creative work, that candidate may be exactly what you need, but for factual work, you should ground it. For consequential work, verify it. So open the source, check the date, identify what kind of evidence you're looking at, and then match the exact claim against what the source actually establishes. Because fluency can make an answer easy to accept, and that's why only evidence makes it easier to trust. Use the model for speed, use the sources for truth, and make sure you know which job you're asking each one to do. So if you like this kind of breakdown, drop a like below and subscribe, because a lot more will be coming your way. See you in the next one.